101.74.
Close enough.
I'm just the Sklar brothers walked in, and Randy has a sweater that I own. I know where you got that. Well, we were gonna
that's the camera. You don't want to mess with that.
A segment about the Maryland game first because it is demanded by our readership. So we're gonna hit that off. You guys will be on the next segment. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And you can't just walk in and pick up a microphone.
You can stay, but just don't talk because nobody can hear you.
Just listen to the Terps. We're going to talk about Terps right now.
Yeah. All right. Very professional podcast. Welcome to MGoRadio. I'm Brian Cook.
I'm Seth Fisher.
I'm Alex Jane.
And we are here to talk about the Maryland Terrapins.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a real football team.
Yep.
Half.
Yep.
Well, I mean, even their defense is going to be a major step up from what we've seen before.
Sure.
And they haven't played many real teams either. So we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams.
But SMU is a real team.
Yep.
I mean, they're an AAC team, but we played them. They have some talent. They also put up 520 yards. They outgained Maryland by about 100 yards. And Maryland got 2 gift interceptions in that game, and that's how they kind of pulled ahead in a game that the fancy stats say that Maryland's going to win about 20% of the time.
Yeah, and they forced a fumble inside the 15. It came out at about the 4-yard line. SMU turned it over on downs inside the 15 as well. I mean, this was a game that SMU should not have lost. But for Maryland, starts with the offense, right? I mean,
yes.
That's got the headline talent for the most part. Talia Tagovailoa, mostly the same as last year, but he's not throwing as deep and not as risky so far. That's what I found interesting. They threw a lot of short stuff against SMU, a lot less kind of running around chaotically. I don't know if that's by design or
probably,
but
and his offensive line is not like just brand new anymore. Like they actually returned everybody
all
on
5.
The line.
They were the only Michigan opponent to return all 5.
Right, and so they lost their pretty good tight end from last year, and they lost kind of just a guy at running back, but everybody else is back, and they brought in top 100 recruit from Florida as a wide receiver. They get Dante Demas back off an injury. They get Jeshaun Jones back off an injury. Neither of those guys played against Michigan. And so Michigan had Dax Hill and the other receivers who Maryland played against Michigan last year transferred to Utah State and Central this year. So this is an entirely different level of challenge this year from Maryland's passing offense than last year.
Yeah, their offensive line isn't like awful so far this year, but they could be exposed. That's an interesting matchup to watch. One guy I do want to point out there is Jalen Duncan, their left tackle, ex-blue chipper. He's showing up on like NFL draft boards, like as high as the first round, and I don't know about that personally.
He's been doing that for years, and
so he's really athletic. He moves well in
he's
space. When they run Talia, they want him to kind of pull out and be the lead blocker a lot of times down the field. So I could see that's why. But anyway, to your point about the wide receivers, Dante Demas is back healthy, but he's not back healthy in terms of his 2021 form. If you look at last year's first 4 or 5 games, he was playing at All-American level. And then he gets hurt against Iowa, misses the season. He hasn't turned it on yet.
That was just an ACL, though, right?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, I would think he's going to get it back over the course of the year. Question is whether it's fully back tomorrow. Rakeem Jarrett is a really good player. He was the worry last year. So he's back, and then they add Copeland, they add Jeshaun Jones. I mean, this is going to be a very interesting passing attack to take on, and the question is how vertical Maryland's gonna make it throwing down the field.
Speaking of vertical, their running back Roman Hemby. You liked him a lot. I kind of just saw a guy who runs really fast if he gets a huge gap.
Yeah, he's not Kenneth Walker, but
right.
He's athletic. They gave him some holes. He made some plays. He stiff-armed a guy.
Not going to make guys miss in space, probably. He's a very straight line kind of guy.
Yeah, he was the danger man because I didn't want to do Rakeem Jarrett.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
So,
I mean, he's speed and he actually has some power. Like he's 200 pounds. He's not like he's not like a small guy. I don't think he can juke at a phone booth or like downshift and upshift like Corum. But
right, we haven't seen him really pick through a hole or get into a different gap.
Right.
He's a guy who gets what's blocked for him, and he gets maybe chunks more because he is a very fast straight line runner. The wheel route you pointed out was pretty impressive.
Yep, and they use him in the passing game. I mean, this is Maryland's offense. They can go with a tight end and flexed out plus a running back lining up as a wide receiver and really spread you out. And the quarterback run is a component, as it always is with this team. So they don't do a ton of designed runs, but it's peppered in there, not to mention the fact that this will be a good game to test contain because Tagovailoa will want to scramble as much as possible.
So one thing that was interesting to me is that our kind of vibe on the blog about Tagovailoa over the past season or two has been kind of like, he's okay, but, you just wait and he'll explode. And so I'm going over all the stuff that's out here about his NFL prospects and PFF grading when I go over for the preview. And PFF had him at a 90.
Yeah, PFF loves him. There are other people who love him. One thing that has been uncovered with him is his statistics and his performances against top-tier defenses and against lesser-tier defenses.
Sure.
And that was something last season where he would just light these lesser teams on fire. And it was kind of emblematic of Maryland as a whole last year, where Maryland as a whole won 7 games, but were not remotely competitive in a single game against
that was also wild.
anyone.
So they had 2 games where they beat Indiana and Illinois by 3 points. And then every other Big Ten game was at least a 3-score blowout. And there was one in the correct direction for Maryland fans, which was Rutgers. Everything else was just a demolition by the opponent.
Yeah, and, Tagovailoa so far, he's still what he is in terms of he's got the great arm, he's athletic, he's got all that stuff. It's just when he has to kind of improvise and make things on the fly, is he going to make those back-breaking mistakes?
I mean, he had 11 interceptions last year, which is kind of a lot, but he also threw the ball almost 450 times.
He's asked to do a lot on this offense.
But again, go back to the difference. They faced, I think, 7 terrible defenses, and then 5 really good ones.
Yeah, I mean, but he threw 5 of his picks against Iowa.
Right.
And maybe that's just Tagovailoa kryptonite, because he's the guy who's trying to fit it in tight spaces, and Iowa is really good at baiting you into that thing. So this is not an Iowa defense. Michigan is in year 2 of this Ravens coordinator era, even though they had to switch over a defensive coordinator. So whatever zones they're running are not going to be nearly as precise and confusing as what Iowa does.
Sure.
So I think Tagovailoa can go off for 300 yards in this game.
Yeah.
And depending on how many attempts he takes to get there, you can come out of this game feeling, pretty decent about what Michigan's doing.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good test all around. I mean, it's interesting because you look at the SMU game, he comes in really high in the downfield success rate charting, and a lot of that was stuff where I was on the borderline of is this a screen or is this
right
technically downfield? But he did take a few shots. He hit Raheem Jarrett wide open for a touchdown against SMU. He had another one to Jayshon Jones that was dropped, and he can make some plays. The scrambling, half the time it's going to be the negative 15-yard sack that just kills your drive, and the other time he's going to roll to the sideline, find a guy open, fit it in a tight window.
So I mean, that's the other thing is can Michigan actually force the mistakes out of Tagovailoa? Because same offensive line from them last year, but Michigan is down Ojabo and Hutchinson, who combined for plus 32.5 last year in your grading.
Yes.
Kind of a big number. And the flashes from the edges we saw against Colorado State now look like sufficient, but not complete, because Colorado State's given up 23 sacks in 3 games.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a real test to see if there is actually an edge there who can get consistent pressure. It's going to be a test to see if the defensive tackles can create some pass rush on their own. And then the other thing I think for Michigan's defense is Junior Colson came in for a negative 12.5 from you last year.
And they were running that's the speed and space stuff, right? The whole Gaddis versus, right? The whole thing was they run the same offense that Michigan was running. And that offense is all about messing with your linebackers. They have a linebacker. We'll get to that in a second. But that was Colson is just so much better now at not, failing in those moments. Right. Really, I think the key for Maryland, and I think this is just the overarching thing with Tagovailoa and the whole team, do not screw up. Iowa, it's not necessarily like they run their zones well. It's that, like, they don't freak out when the play gets down to 3. Like, when things break down, because things are going to break down. It's ta-ta time is what I was calling it in the UFR. Yeah. Like, he just runs around back there, and, like, Michigan State breaks down. And so he threw a gazillion yards against them. Michigan, don't break down. Like, Iowa, that's they're best at, right? Is like they'll stay on target even if that quarterback needs to go so bad.
Because eventually Maryland will shoot themselves in the foot, particularly with penalties.
Yeah.
They had 15 against SMU. They had 31 on the season. That's second worst in the country.
Yeah, and I do want to point out one thing with pressure to close this part. It's not super often that you say that, like, the big problem in pass protection for a team is the center, but that was the problem for Maryland against SMU.
Okay.
And that's what I'm kind of intrigued about was, like, anytime SMU got a little funky and was throwing different stuff up the middle especially, it was getting home. And we've seen Minter do some interesting stuff with his blitz packages. I assume he picked that up on the tape if he was watching the same thing I was. So I'll be interested to see what they do with the defensive tackles and maybe a linebacker to try to get some free rush up the gut.
All right. Other side of the ball is much less intimidating. I went over the SMU game as well. Nobody can cover. They have one safety who can cover.
Yeah, and he was the danger man for the piece, Bo Braid, more because of the high win probability swing events. He got an interception. He punched that huge fumble out, and he could cover a little bit. Made some PBUs,
Yeah, he had a couple breaks on the ball that were solid.
Yeah, but otherwise, this coverage situation is kind of a mess.
So I was watching the game, and I'm like, who is this guy? And it's Bennett. What's his first name?
Jacorian Bennett.
Yeah. And so I go back to your FFF after watching this, and, like, you say that he's the one guy that they put out there all the time, and I was like, oh, that's not good.
And he gets a lot of targets too because they leave him in man, and then they'll probably they'll roll coverages the other side. Like, Alex kept on sending me plays. He's like, hey, what coverage is this? Finally, I was just like, that's just putting that guy on man, and they're just zoning up everybody else.
Well, he was on Rice.
Rasheed Rice.
Who's like a 6'2" high point maven, and just no chance on any. Like, the first one he just falls over on. There's like a back shoulder where all three guys throw the flag, and the guy still makes the catch.
Yeah, he got dunked on like several times.
Yes, he got posterized, and like Andrew Anthony has not been a big part of this offense so far this year, but it might be Andrew Anthony.
And the funny part is that the SMU quarterback was kind of doing what you always wanted Shea to do with Nico, where like
just
throwing it there. Because there were plays where like several guys would be wide open down the field, and he's like, "Nah, I'm just gonna throw a jump ball to this guy,"
and it works. So, I mean,
there's your lesson right there.
And then the other thing is that their ground game, it was really hard to evaluate how good or bad they were last year because of all the blowouts.
Yeah.
So in the second half, all these games, teams are just running in the line because they're just trying to run the clock and get out of there because they're up by 40 points. And I went back and I looked at Football Outsiders. They have defensive line stats. They were terrible in line yards allowed. They were terrible in standard line yards allowed. They were terrible at stuff rate. They were terrible at power success rate. Every particular drill down stat except like opportunity rate was like 90th or worse. And again, all these guys are back. And that might be a good thing. You thought you saw like meaningful improvement from their tackles.
Well, so last year was interesting because I really didn't like the tackles, and I was kind of like, Michigan should run over these guys in the Maryland game, and then like they didn't. And I remember
that was a weird game.
Yeah, it was like Michigan can't really run on Maryland. They could do all the other stuff, and we were all kind of like, well, that doesn't bode well for Ohio State. And then
it was fine.
Yeah. So, but no, I thought they did better against SMU. What was interesting about the game is that SMU's spreading the field out. I mean, there were plays where it would be 4 down linemen and 1 linebacker in the box, and everybody else is way out there. And like they still couldn't run it. SMU couldn't on Maryland. So I don't know what to make of that. Whether that's an SMU problem.
Both those tackles are big, so I mean that's they'll stay at the line.
They have a 310-pound guy, a 320-pound guy, and then their jack. Which is just an anchor, is 295. So they're not going to get a whole lot of pass rush from them. And you caught them dropping 8 in coverage 40% of the time.
It was pretty astonishing for a big chunk of this game.
That has to be an SMU thing, though, right?
I think they're just like, oh God, we're so boned in the secondary. Maybe we can do this, and it'll screw.
That's obviously why they went to zone, because they just can't. They were a cover 1 team, so they were transitioning this year to cover 2 when they did none of that, and they got a new defensive coordinator because I think the last guy just was like, nope, out. And and there's a bunch of they return the corners, and they're not even playing the starter from last year still. So all the other there's 8 cornerbacks that they're rotating through, which is not a good sign usually.
So, we're gonna see this. They're gonna. Against JJ, dropping 8 into his zone might be one of their better paths forward, because it's okay, he's not going to scramble for a bunch of yards, and he's going to have to make decisions and fit into tight spaces. I think we'll be able to do that, but it'll be more difficult for him.
And it would be more difficult if they would cover any of the guys.
Yeah.
Because the idea, so you drop 8 into coverage, you're only rushing.
I love it when I'm reading your FFFFs, and it's clear Alex is just losing his patience with these people.
I love it more because I did this for years, and I'm like, yes, someone else is going through this now.
So the first 3 weeks were bad enough, and then you have this play of theirs where it's 3rd and 6 or whatever, and they drop 8, and they drop them all behind the sticks.
That happened many times. They'd be prlaying prevent defense on 3rd and 4 in the middle of the first quarter, and you're just like, what are you doing?
Well, there's another play you showed. You sent me another one where what's the coverage on this? And they've got a tight end running wide open down the middle, and there's no safety on either side. They're both outside of the seams.
That was a good job by Mordecai of moving that safety with his eyes. And Devin Gardner did the color on this game, and so he called that out too. And given what we've seen from J.J. McCarthy so far this year, I think that's going to be on the table. So, posts to guys who shouldn't be open, or I think we're going to see at least a couple. So.
Yeah, there were a lot of problems down the seam in this game, especially a lot of problems when it was targeting the linebackers in coverage, stuff like that. It's going to be an interesting game for JJ because I don't think there should be a ton of pass rush unless they decide to dial up more blitzes, which they did at the end of the SMU game more. But it'll be a chance for him to scan the field, look defenders off, find the open guy in the zone, and then make a quick, decisive throw.
And then when it comes to the ground game, I think 2 things kind of leap out. They do have a big front 4, but their linebacker level is very small and very young.
Yeah, the linebackers were the weakness of the defense last year, and
you despised them.
Yeah, they were really bad last year, and then so they went and got this Jayshon Barham from St. Francis. Yep. He was the one local blue chipper they get every year.
Just outside the top 100.
Yep.
Stick him straight in the starting lineup.
Stick him straight in the starting lineup, and for a true freshman linebacker, looked fine to me.
Yeah.
And he's clearly better than all those other guys.
Right, and so that's the problem. So they're a 4.25 as a base, and they're running out another true freshman as their nickel, who's 175 pounds. And their options to go bigger than the 4.25 are all the linebackers you despise, or a backup linemen who you think aren't very good either.
Yeah, and they the other linebacker spot is being started by Ruben Hippolyte II. All these linebackers
have great names.
have great names.
They can't play football, but by God, did their parents do a good job of naming them.
Henry Chukwueze, Fanaje Gote.
Yeah, so Hippolyte he's the starter, and he only played 9 snaps against SMU before having a finger situation.
Okay.
So he exited the game. They replaced him with Ahmad McCullough, who is definitely a downgrade. That's supposedly a game-time decision, so that could matter a little bit. But either one, this is going to be a chance for Michigan to target the linebackers again, just like they did last season.
Right, so 2 tight end packages might be hard for Maryland to keep up with. And then if they start tweaking what they've shown in the first 2 games, I think you're going to see true freshmen in the wrong gap.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so I think my impression from this game is Michigan's going to go up and down the field on them. They need to convert touchdowns, and then they need to get some pressure on Tagovailoa, and then they should meet that
Stay on your guy. Just don't break down in the secondary because
Right.
you're going to be like 6 minutes or 6
And
second
conversely,
plays.
for Michigan receivers, when they're rushing 3 and JJ breaks the pocket, do something.
Yeah. And this is a game, again, like what you talked about the penalties. I mean, this is a game where you can just throw it up and hope they get handsy because they do that a lot. This is penalties strike at the worst moments for Maryland. They find ways to shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, it's just not a super well-coached team in general when you watch them.
We should mention that Michigan did, I think they blocked a punt last year, and they had the throwback touchdown off the pop-up.
Yeah.
Now, they did import a pretty good
in
kicker from EMU.
And in 2019, they ran a kickback for a touchdown and also did a fake punt, I think, in that game, too. So
And
they love to just
How do
screw
you
with
remember Maryland games so well?
They just love to screw with
Maryland games just
Maryland.
like pop out of my brain like the second they happen.
It's
like
easily the most anonymous team in the Harbaugh era that Michigan plays.
It's just so funny that you're like, oh, yeah, what did that insane thing happen against? Oh, yeah, Maryland.
Well, the other storyline here is that the Josh Gaddis, Mike Loxley blood feud
is over.
Yeah.
So
it's like the Mike Loxley versus his own team blood feud continues along.
The thing that I'm concerned about is that what if we put so much effort into preparing a game plan for Maryland because of the blood feud, and now that's all out the window, and they have us dead to rights. It could happen. Seth doesn't think it could happen.
The one thing that's been consistent about Maryland in the Harbaugh era is they've never played a competitive game against Michigan.
Yeah.
There was that
every game is like a comfortable 3 to 4 touchdown victory.
There was one that was just like a slog until all of a sudden Michigan found a way to get Ty Isaac down the sideline for a bunch of yards, and then
probably
that was it.
2017.
No, it was like 2015
and we don't know what the
15
status of Donovan Edwards is for this
We
game.
don't.
He's supposed to be back.
Yeah.
And this is important because I would like to see Donovan Edwards continue dunking on Maryland.
Yeah.
I mean, that is going to be a big difference in this game is that last year Corum was out. Edwards got 3 carries. So now it's going to be Corum and Edwards. You know, Michigan did not actually run the ball, as you mentioned, because Hassan Haskins had a long of 12 yards. So this is going to be a much more explosive backfield for Maryland to deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, I would not be surprised if Edwards doesn't play, then you see A.J. Henning in some of those roles.
All right, scores.
42-27.
Just registering that.
Is that just your default score for all projections? I like that.
Yes.
Keep doing that.
48-24.
I think I said 44-25.
Something, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, people in the comments were talking about what that score sums up to.
Right. They do that every time. They're just like, how do we do this? And the answer is, are we playing Iowa? It's 21 safeties. All right, we're going to take a break and talk with the Sklar brothers.
Want the perfect game day outfit? Underground Printing has unique, great-fitting U of M apparel and officially licensed apparel from legendary Michigan names like Woodson, Howard, Ufer, and more. UGP also specializes in custom printed apparel and promotional items for groups, events, and businesses. Whether you need 1 shirt as a gift or 1,000 shirts for a charity walk, Underground can customize almost anything for groups large or small. To learn more, visit Underground Printing in one of our 3 convenient locations around Ann Arbor or online at undergroundshirts.com. It's painless. It's online. It's group ordering made easy for your next custom printed apparel order. Pogo from Underground Printing will save you time and hassle. Whether you're selling shirts for a fundraiser, organizing a large event, trying to collect sizes and payments for a family reunion, or, ordering a whole bunch of shirts with your Kickstarter, Underground Printing is here to help. Save time and hassle every step of the way with their easy-to-use site. No more guessing what to order, chasing people down to pay, wasting time trying to sort out the order. They'll set it up and you can just sit back and relax. They'll even take care of individual shipping. To learn more about Pogo, visit them at any of their convenient locations or at pogo.undergroundshirts.com.
At Peak Wealth, we believe we can help you retire with confidence. It's Nick Hopwood, certified financial planner from
Peak Wealth Management.
in Plymouth. I graduated from Michigan in 2001 with an econ degree and founded Peak Wealth Management in 2014. And now we have over $240 million of assets under management. As a freshman in 97, winning the national championship in football and hockey didn't get any better than that. Both my wife and I lived in Bursley that year, and it's crazy because we never actually met while living in the same dorm. Probably because she had a car and I had to ride the bus. But we named our dog Bursley anyway, and he's on the payroll here at Peak Wealth Management. At Peak, we're fee-based. We're your fiduciary, which means everything we recommend is always in your best interest. We partner with leading institutional money managers, focus on low fees, and make sure every client has a financial plan covering retirement, college, tax, estate, insurance, and cash flow. Simply put, we are
Peak Wealth Management,
your comprehensive financial coach. Book your second opinion at peakwm.com/mgoblog.
Peak Wealth Management.
Retire with confidence.
If you want to see where our post-game podcast happens, or if you need a spot to land in Ann Arbor, check out 4M, Prentice Partners' beautiful brand-new flagship property at 830 Henry Street in Lower Burns Park and across the bridge from the Big House. Their 11 spacious 6-bedroom, 6-bath suites feature state-of-the-art digital capabilities and are laid out for comfortable, efficient collaboration. You can also rent a 4M unit for shorter stays, say if you want to come to town for a football weekend. I want to add myself that they're also taking over Lucky's. We're really excited about their plans for that space. So if you're by the stadium, swing by 830 Henry or visit Prentice4M.com.
1 and 2 and...
If you find yourself on the wrong side of the law, you want a Michigan man in the huddle. Call criminal law attorney and former prosecutor Jonathan Paul at 248-924-9458 or visit his website at michiganlawgrad.com. John is a proud graduate of the University of Michigan Ross School of Business and Michigan Law School. He looks forward to showing you the Michigan difference.
Tell me how you want me. Tell me what I
Welcome back to
can do.
MGoRadio 8.3.
I think you're right.
Oh my God.
Oh my, yeah. Did you just guess that?
No, I knew it. We completely forgot to talk about the sponsors. We're again going to say that that's because they shouldn't be polluted by proximity to Maryland. Thank you to Underground Printing for making this all possible. UGP makes custom apparel such as T-shirts and sweatshirts and was founded by 2 Michigan alums over 20 years ago. They have 3 retail locations in Ann Arbor and offer thousands of University of Michigan athletic products for sale, ranging from clothing to accessories and memorabilia. Check them out at ugpmichiganapparel.com or check out our selection of shirts on the MGO blog store. We'd also like to thank our associate sponsors, Peak Wealth Management, Homeshare Lending, Ann Arbor Elder Law, Michigan Law Grad, Human Element, the Phil Klein Insurance Group, Venue by 4M, and we are recording this at Underground Printing. Hello, Sklars.
Hello.
How are you?
How's everybody?
We're
good.
great.
Happy
So-
to be back in Ann Arbor.
And you have a show tonight at 8.
One show tonight at 7:30. I love he gets everything right except for that, right? It's 7:30, right?
7:30
Wait,
is
tonight
the show.
7:30?
Yes.
I believe tonight 7:30, and then afterwards there is the Q&A that we're going
Right,
to do
yeah.
with you guys on stage, and we'll talk, and you guys will talk and answer questions. It's so much fun.
And you have 7:30 and 9:30 shows tomorrow.
7:30 and
Correct.
9:30 tomorrow night, and those will be really fun too. I want to sell them all out. We got the early shows in, like the one show tonight and the early show tomorrow night are doing really well, and there's some tickets left in the late show, but it can always fill up. And in a good feeling, we just beat Maryland weekend.
Yeah, hopefully.
Homecoming. Everyone.
Yeah, it's
I
a
hope.
homecoming
We were
of
just at
sorts.
Schembeckler Hall today, and it was very. People were like,
There was
I think-
good energy.
yeah, I think they're taking this as seriously as they need to take it. Like it was a very business-like atmosphere, yet
Loose and fun, too.
yeah, they were.
Okay.
Yeah, like first of all, I saw Donovan Edwards bounce in there. He literally bounced in. Now I don't know.
That's
what that
like
means.
insider information right
Yeah,
there.
it looked good.
He
I
looked
mean,
good. He looked happy. He was in a good mood. He wasn't limping. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just seemed he seemed happy and upbeat. We saw Denard. We met Denard. He could not have been cooler. Like so nice. First of all,
It's
and
like, you want to play sevens? And we're like, what's that? And he's like, meet us down on the basketball court. So my son and Randy and I got to play a shooting basketball game with Denard, who you hang with him for 10 minutes and you're like, oh, Yeah, he's the most magnetic person in the world.
Yeah.
Just amazing. And
We're like, remember when you went to a basketball game? He's like, I went to hockey games. I went to every game.
we're like,
Why?
We
He's like,
forgot.
'cause
It's like,
it's
'cause
fun.
it's fun. I used to go to games because I was a student and I liked going to games.
He's not wrong. I mean, like,
He's not wrong.
But don't you want someone like that recruiting for you? And I feel like, I don't know if he ever did anything like that, but he'll pick up what he has to do down the line. I'm like, that's a great representative for who should be out there representing the M.
Well, he was like I don't know what exactly his role was at Jacksonville, but he had a little bit of like time.
running backs coach officially.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, but like he's just the guy who needs to like stay and do that job forever.
Well, everyone loves him. I mean, everyone loves him in there, which is great. So you walk around and hang out with him. And then we were on the court. There's like a little basketball court above the weight room. It's very small, but the regular hoop, and they shoot the ball in there. And Mimi came up, Mimi Morris.
Oh,
okay.
Right, yeah.
So she came in just as like,
And
I
they're
heard,
like, you don't want to play
you do not
against
want
her
to play
'cause
me.
She never
and so
misses.
Jay's son, who's in 8th grade, was like, I'll play her. And we're like, oh no.
She worked him.
But first
he
of all,
got 2
he
points
got
on
2
her.
points on her.
She
which
won
is
3
great.
too.
She has the most, D1 play for Boston College.
I think
Georgetown or whatever. She has the most unbelievable stroke ever. Was just
so
stroking
good.
threes so easy. And what we saw in that moment was how much everybody respects her. It's like one thing to say, we need diversity in terms of making sure there's a female coach on our staff.
She walked in and they're like, oh no.
They like gave her the requisite amount of grief that you give, like everybody gives each other. And she was just so respected. And it was
Fun.
just great.
It was fun.
It was really cool to see. And of course, she could like whoop everyone's butt on the basketball court.
Mike
I
Hart.
enjoy the shots of her that they occasionally
When she's
put on
looking
the
really mad.
I
and
like
Right,
just-
it's like she looks like Tom Landry. It's
I
like,
Yeah,
a
get
hatless
upset.
Tom Rand. But
You're probably not allowed to grab someone's like face mask and like talk to them in their face.
She
anymore,
can.
right?
So
she gets to do that.
She can
Could
slap
she
you.
Woody Hayes?
She can
somebody?
punch a Clemson
like a
player in
Clemson
the
player?
throat.
No, that's too
No,
much.
I don't think
so.
She can rattle cage.
But she's great, and again, you think people respect her. People respect what she has to say, and I don't know.
cool.
That was really cool, and we saw Mike Hart, and I mean,
We're like, CJ Stokes doing it. And he's like,
he's great. He's like, he'll be good. He'll
be
be good.
good.
He like does not give it up at all. I'm like, he's doing great. He's like, he could get there. I love that Mike doesn't give it up. And I'm like, that's the closest CJ Stokes is ever going to get to a compliment from Mike Hart. He could get there.
Well, it's Mike Hart. Like,
I
you
know.
he's like,
That's right.
okay, have you dragged 7 Penn State defenders for 8
Thank
yards?
you.
No,
I
way.
mean, but what I love about that is like if you ever do earn praise from the guy, it's 100% earned. And I think
and then he said, very honestly, we got good kids on this team.
Yeah.
He took a moment to tell us that these
are good kids. He's like, look, you got a couple guys who are knuckleheads, but he's like, this specific group of guys on this team, they're great kids. And I think that means something when you're trying to go beyond where we've been before.
Yeah.
I think that means something, as you move forward.
Seems like a pretty united locker room. That's the vibe even out of these 3 games.
Yeah, and so they break through and they win the Big Ten last year, and like then they get that Georgia reality check.
Oh yeah.
And I think that really helps in terms of like not resting on your laurels. You're like, we got another level that we need to go to if we're actually going to do this.
And I think seeing this year that Georgia is still head and shoulders above everyone else, but the rest of the field does not feel unbeatable.
No.
So in this moment, even after 3 games and things can change, Michigan is saying to itself,
Or we got a shot.
we got a shot. Let's stay focused and in this, and if we can.
No trips. Like,
There's no,
yeah.
But it doesn't. You're not looking at a mountain that for many years we looked at beginning of the season and said,
Like, well,
there's no chance.
We're not gonna. Let's try and win 9. I mean, that was really.
Or we're definitely going to lose in Columbus, or we're definitely going to lose in November. Like, those days
Nothing's
are
definite.
over.
You could trip up, of course, absolutely, but nothing is like this is a definite, and I don't think these guys feel that way at all. It's cool. I mean, I have to say, I have a different opinion about the cupcake schedule because we're going to get, and this is what Mike Hart was saying too. We're going to get tested this week as far as the defense is going to get tested. Because you're playing the best offense next to Ohio State in the Big Ten.
And then he's like, then we play the best defense next week.
Right.
So he's like, we're going to get tested before we then have to play a complete team in Penn State. We're going to get tested before that. Who cares if we didn't get tested in these earlier games? To me, what you had is this whole thing was like a big team-building weekend. That's what these first 3 games were.
Right.
You know, because
trust falls.
Trust falls, yeah. High rope scores.
High rope scores is just a lot of, everybody do yell sessions, if you will. But to me, they played perfectly the offense in the first half and just dominated to the point where you empty the bench and get 104 guys to go play. And who are those guys who are playing? Those are the guys on your practice squads who are helping you get ready for Talia. Those are the guys and they're going to fight even harder for you. And so it helps the team's chemistry that you are able, the starters did their job so that the other guys could get in and play. And you gave them that experience that they may not get for the rest of the year because you're playing good talent. And the team, to me, is more of a cohesive team.
Alex is on your side, too. He wants them playing like just cupcakes all the way to Ohio State.
My thing is that I think if it comes down to a couple of 11-1 teams at the end of the year.
That's a great point.
Like, Michigan's schedule is probably going to be a tiebreaker for the other team. So, like, let's say they do lose in Columbus, but they're 11-1.
Right.
And so Ohio State's in, Alabama's in, Georgia's in. Then you got to hope there isn't a one-loss Pac-12 team. There isn't a one-loss
I could see Alabama
ACC
losing 2
team.
games this year.
Sure. But I think there are a lot of scenarios where Michigan's non-conference schedule is disqualifying relative to some other team that
I think
took on some
I think you could be right in Oklahoma and maybe a USC. But beyond that, Clemson doesn't feel like Clemson this year.
That's true.
And Notre Dame doesn't feel like Notre Dame this year.
Notre Dame's already out.
And Cincinnati is not Cincinnati of last year. So all these teams that were kind of hovering around 4 through 8, 4 through 9 are not the invincible teams that they were.
No, but
before.
it's going to be a real hard sell for Michigan to be number 4, I think.
They're number 4. Right now they're number 4. It's just
no, but like
1, 2, and 3 are like obvious unless one of those teams trip up.
I'm just saying, it's like once you get down to and they're going to have an extra game because they're going to have a conference championship game. Maybe they go down and Michigan is 11-1 and there isn't another one-loss team to pick from. I don't know. And also,
so then we go to the Rose Bowl. I don't even mind it that much. I'll come stay with you guys in California.
Exactly. But I think it comes out to how you lose if you lose in Columbus.
Yeah.
How close that is.
That's true.
What that game looks like. If it's 2016, I think you make a case for getting them in.
I mean, the other thing is like if it is Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State, like. If you have a playoff and it's just Big Ten teams and just SEC teams.
Well, but they're moving to a 12-team playoff, which to me is great, which will be the nail in the coffin of the 4. Like, they're happy to say, like, look what we're doing to fix this. Like, the NCAA wants to pat themselves on the back any way they can. So they'll say, look what we did. Look what we just did.
Look at how bad it got.
Look at how bad it got. So we're going to make it 12 teams, which I think is way better. And, hopefully that'll happen sooner rather than later.
All right, we're going to take a break, come back with more Sklar Brothers.
Hey, it's Nick Hopwood, founder and president at Peak Wealth Management. We have a lot in common. We both went to Michigan. We're both huge fans, but I'm concerned about how much time you're spending on Michigan football recruiting. This could be time spent with me poring over your cash flow and Roth conversion strategy. How are these Roth conversions going to get done with you spending all your time and energy on MGoBlog looking at the next 5-star recruits? Hey, all kidding aside, if you're addicted to MGoBlog and you want to outsource some of your financial planning to an expert, consider us, peakwm.com/MGoBlog. At Peak, we work with people in a variety of situations. Some of our clients are young professionals looking to optimize their savings and investments. For young people, time is the key. Some of our clients are super affluent trying to figure out when they can retire. Some are high net worth retirees looking for a second opinion on how their money's working for them. Get your second opinion at peakwm.com/MGoBlog.
Peak Wealth Management.
Retire with confidence.
Want the perfect game day outfit? Underground Printing has unique, great-fitting U of M apparel and officially licensed apparel from legendary Michigan names like Woodson, Howard, Ufer, and more. UGP also specializes in custom printed apparel and promotional items for groups, events, and businesses. Whether you need 1 shirt as a gift or 1,000 shirts for a charity walk, Underground can customize almost anything for groups large or small. To learn more, visit Underground Printing at one of our 3 convenient locations around Ann Arbor or online at undergroundshirts.com.
It can be a rough ride along the information superhighway. That's why we build our e-commerce websites tough enough to handle the load. With the capacity to take hundreds of simultaneous online transactions and the stability of load-balanced, co-located server architectures, a website from Human Element performs in the roughest conditions. Thousands of products? No problem. We'll throw in the tools to manage them with precision and efficiency. All with a design slick enough to make you think your girlfriend might be impressed. So load it up and hit the gas and let Human Element show you the way. Special offers available for returning lessees. Financing available with approved credit to qualified buyers. Client participation may affect savings. Optional equipment available at additional cost. See human-element.com for details.
In southeastern Michigan, the yearly cost for a nursing home averages approximately $100,000. It doesn't have to, though. Reed McCarthy founded Ann Arbor Elder Law after handling a tricky situation for his own family. Years of experience later, his boutique firm works with clients across southeast Michigan, dealing with Medicaid planning, long-term care, and tax, disability, and family law, not to mention family dynamics. If you have a family member who may need that level of care, or if you're ready to start your own estate plan, Reed can give you a plan for the future. Visit AnnArborElderLaw.com or call 734-945-9693. That's 734-945-9693.
My love, you won't find me hanging
Welcome back to
around.
MGO Podcast 8.3. We're here with the Sklar brothers who have a show at 7:30. So if you aren't doing anything tonight, get
Come on
out to the
down.
Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase.
It's going to be a great show, and I love that club, by the way. So much fun, and we did a lot to help save that club.
Yeah.
You helped
You
us
guys-
out. You guys really helped us.
Every time I walk in there, they're like, "Oh, you're the guy."
They're so grateful. During the pandemic, it was really hard for everybody. Some places did better than others. Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase is kind of locked in granite from 1988. It's been same ownership, and I love Roger Feeney is just the best. His daughter Claudia is fantastic too. They're just great people who we love and have loved for a long time. But the pandemic hit them particularly hard. So when they needed money just to keep the doors open, we did this little fundraiser roast of John U. Bacon, which you guys helped
You guys
out.
participated in it.
So
Hilarious.
fun. We got Jeff Ross to do a
Yeah.
little something.
My Twitter profile still says once roasted Jeff Ross.
Oh my God,
that was so good.
great. And we called upon people to do it, and we raised enough money for them to keep the lights on for like 2 months, which got them through to a certain. It was just it was magical, and they're so happy. And so now we get to come back and headline the club, which is just such a treat for us. And then of course do it on a football weekend. We didn't come.
Not a coincidence.
No,
No.
This is.
We look up
They asked
what-
us when do you want to come back. We're like in the
No,
fall.
so we were supposed to come originally Hawaii weekend.
Right.
And then it was a night game.
Then they made it a night game.
Because you need to play Hawaii at night. That was
mean-
important.
I mean, that day was really hot, so I was okay with that.
So it is good.
But it would have cut right into our shows.
Yeah.
So there would have been Speaking
no
of
point to
Cut Worms, the band that did most of this music. I think he used all Cut Worms tracks that you've been listening to. Is a fantastic band. You should definitely check them out and check him out. Max is the guy's name. Really good. It kind of sounds like Everly Brothers with a sort of a newer country twinge to it.
Yeah.
The guy's amazing. And he's going to be performing live. If you guys, whoever's listening, if you're in New York, we're going to do our podcast, Dumb People Town, live at the Bell House in Brooklyn on Sunday, October 16th, and with Roy Wood Jr. from The Daily Show, Andrew Dismukes from SNL as a guest, and then this guy Max from Cut Worms is going to be playing music
Hopefully
live.
one day after a big Penn State win.
Yes, that would be fantastic.
I have good news about Michigan fans and New York.
Okay.
There's a couple.
There's a few. We've got a few there. So come on out to that show on October 16th at the Bell House. But if you're in Ann Arbor now, come tonight. It's going to be so much fun. And then afterwards, we're going to do this Q&A with you guys.
We're going to get some pizza, order some drinks.
Yeah.
The drink menu's online, by the way, if you want to check it out. They got like it's not just like couple things on there.
Oh, they're
So
great. They're great, and what's cool about this is you guys have such a great audience. We know because we've interacted with your fans on Twitter and online, and they've supported us in a great way. To combine that with comedy, to me, is something that's what's special about Michigan.
You go for the smarter stuff.
Yeah, that's who your audience is. So for us, it's great.
This is the only fan base in the world that could support a blog that's like, would you like 10,000 words about half a football game?
True that.
Yeah, they love it. I mean, we are part of that audience, so I would say we love it.
As consumers of the blog and consumers of the podcast, we completely get why people love it.
And for years, it was the thing that got me through the horrible losses that happened. I was like, I need to read what these guys are saying because I either need to confirm that it's in my brain, all this dark stuff that's swirling around, or you're going to help me get to another place. And the blog always did that. Always. The podcast do and the blog always did that. This year we're kind of in uncharted waters a little bit. We'll see what happens. Let's not jump the gun here. But, I have a lot of hope for this team. I actually really –
Yeah, you guys seem way more chill than
Here's the
right?
thing.
What is that? What is this feeling of calm?
It's because you guys just went on a recruiting tour is what happened. You just
Denard did it to us. No.
you spent some time with Denard Robinson. You've been recruited
We've been
to
Denarded.
Michigan.
Yeah. We've been Denarded.
This is the Michigan. We're going to write up it on 247 afterwards.
So
they had to visit.
You know how your dog gets neutered and basically he got denuded? And he's just happy but doesn't know why. We got Denarded. We're happy and we don't know why. But I don't know.
We should be implying that if you see Denard Robinson,
he will take your balls
off.
But
we did say, but we did ask Denard.
There is an Iowa safety out there
who is ballless in Iowa City.
We did ask Denard if he is faster than or was faster than Nicholas Harbor.
Who will be here this weekend.
In his highest moment. And he said same track time. Same track time.
Denard very calmly said we had the same track time.
10-2.
10-2-8. 10-2-8.
The difference is Nichols Harbor is 6'5" and 260 pounds.
Correct.
He's 230. I mean, that kid's
still big. And
gotta get him. Got to get him here. I don't know. I just like this team. I actually truly like this team. You know how there are moments when guys are getting played and you're like, why is this guy getting? It's where you don't understand it. It's like there's a record store nearby me.
We're not allowed to say these things.
But
we are.
I'm saying that there is a record store nearby me, and they don't have it alphabetized. And I'm like, what is the order? How are you arranging this stuff? Why are you arranging this stuff this way? This is a stupid way to arrange it. Okay, there are moments when you see people playing, you're like, why is this person above it? This is stupid. Why are we doing this? And it's like, this is something that I, as a layperson, can't see. I don't feel that way about this team. I don't feel that way about these guys. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm weirdly hopeful.
Look, they could go down by 30 points tomorrow, and then we'll be like, I never want to watch this team again.
Yeah.
But,
Or they come back and have just a crazy, I don't know. I can't wait to see them go full, JJ the entire game. Let's see what he does.
Full throttle, running stretch plays, running all.
Yeah, you guys were talking about the linebackers and the line of Maryland, and we may not be able to run. We'll just bubble screen them to death. Literally, throw it out on the edges and just see what happens. It's like a run.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing where just the threat of it starts putting stuff up on the interior where it's just you're able to stretch the field horizontally, and then we've seen JJ go deep a lot, so you have to cover all of the field when JJ is the quarterback.
Yeah, and then you also can't bring your edges screaming upfield either because, if he breaks the pocket, he could, they have to treat – they don't give him the Denard treatment, but, that's – we showed that a couple weeks ago against Hawaii where, they're sitting down at the line of scrimmage, and then that opens up all sorts of things for Michigan to do.
Yeah, I kind of feel like teams are going to have to start abandoning that.
And just blitz him?
Yeah, because – I mean, if you give him time in the pocket, and the things that we've seen where Michigan kind of breaks down is Trente Jones gets beaten around the corner. Mm-hmm. These are usually happening to poor damn Cade McNamara these days. But what you're seeing is you're teams just play too soft and just they're like, JJ, you're gonna have to make it. You're gonna have
throw under.
Yeah, we're gonna make you beat us, and then he's like,
okay,
yeah, sure.
Right.
Well, I mean, Hawaii actually they came down on they were playing cover one, that one long pass to Cornelius Johnson, and that safety still came down when he looked at him. So like they just need to start training their guys not to like meet JJ's eyes.
But also we also haven't had a guy who evolves in this role as quarterback. We haven't had a guy who we could say, let's put this on his shoulders a little bit. It's like our basketball team before we had a Trey Burke. So before you had Trey Burke, you're just like, all right, I hope everyone does their roles, and we run our pick and roll with Darius Miles or Darius Morris. Darius Morris, and they do a little bit here, and then we get to the Sweet 16.
Everybody know your role.
But then we had this player, Trey Burke, who it's like, okay, this transcends the moment. This is a guy who hits 3 shots that need to be hit in order to come back from down 10 against Kansas. Things like that, we haven't had a player that's transcended the position at quarterback in the last 15 years at least.
I mean,
Jernard maybe.
Yeah.
Well, Jernard in what he did, correct, but
occasionally Gardner. He like once in a while he would get
before
a game.
he got deleted by Michigan State's he just had no pass protection the whole
no
year.
protection.
Yeah.
So now we kind of have the pieces in place in front of this guy and a chance for a guy to develop and get better. And we don't know what the ceiling is for this guy yet. I feel like when Cade was in, we all kind of had an awareness of what the ceiling was and just hope he plays near the ceiling. Hope he's a balloon that your kid got from a restaurant and then released in their bedroom, and just hope it stays near the ceiling for a few days. Now we don't know what the ceiling is, and that's exciting for a fan base.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this, like how did Clemson end up one of the big 3?
Yeah. 2 good quarterbs.
Yeah,
that's
exactly it. Yeah,
back to
because
back.
Everybody else, they were recruiting at the same level as Michigan. They were playing basically the same level as Michigan. Sometimes they'd have a good defense, sometimes, but like they had quarterbacks who could just go out and sling the ball against anybody.
So, and to make the schedule argument, and I know Alex Drain will back me up on this. Who did Clemson play during the regular season? They had nobody. They're playing nobody in the regular season.
He's over there smiling.
He's
on his
smiling.
phone, he's just
then
grinning
they get into the postseason, the playoffs, and then they're everyone's like, well, they're not tested because the ACC is terrible, and then they walk in and win the one game and then pull a couple of crazy upsets. But
I don't miss like rooting for FSU to like upset them every year. That was just wrong.
Or North Carolina State, Louisville. You're like, come on.
Once in a while, Pitt would do it. That would be fun. But like,
that would be fun.
Then then Pitt got really sad and angry.
Facts.
I think that's
not according to Desmond Howard.
That's enough ACC talk for the next decade, I think.
This has been ACC Brothers. Thank you for watching us.
This is Maryland week, so
this is Maryland week. It's good to give a nod to where they used to be.
So last year you guys came out and you guys hadn't done a stand-up show basically since COVID.
It was our first weekend of doing stand-up shows out in the wild, so to speak, and it was eye-opening for us. Like, we kind of knew what our set was, but we knew what our set was if we were doing it on Zoom. What I mean? It's just a little different than when you're doing it in front of an audience. And I remember we got off stage the first set of that weekend, and we were like, all right. And they're like, you did 41 minutes. We were like, wait, what?
Oh, that's too short.
That's way too short. And it took us a while. I mean, we kind of had to stretch out a little bit more, and I don't think we even hit it. And we even in the next city we went to, like 3 weeks later, we were having a hard time getting back because we had jettisoned a lot of material that we were doing before the pandemic, and we just had shortened it down to what the set was. And by the way, no one is going to, unless you do like 20 minutes, no one is going. If you're 42, no one's going to be like, you didn't do 45.
Right.
Nobody's going to 50. Really, for us, the sweet spot, watching us do comedy is like listening to a podcast at 1.5 speed. You get like one.
You can only tolerate about 51
right,
minutes.
You can't listen to a 1.5 podcast for 2 hours straight.
Right.
Okay. The reason you're listening to it is because you want to get it a little. So we realize there's a point of diminishing returns at what we do, and it comes at about 52, 53 minutes. But that is the 50 minutes is really the sweet spot for us. So we were in Phoenix, or we were in Tempe. We were in Tempe at the Tempe Improv, and we said we got to write more stuff. And in there, this is something we hardly ever do. We literally, that weekend, we said, we're going to write 5 minutes of material, and we did. And that 5 minutes has now sort of expanded a little bit further, and that kind of got us, over the course of the next period of time, it got us to where we wanted to be.
So do you notice any difference between audiences, like post-pandemic and pre-pandemic?
I think there was a pure joy just that the shows were happening at the beginning. I think that has given way now to a return to some normalcy. I do think, like, the Will Smith stuff was insane. And I do think we are at a place in our country where people are like, I don't like this. And they're going to suddenly stand up and come at you.
Okay.
So there is a tiny little fear of that, like someone broke that seal and now they know they can go in there, and it's like, no, you're not supposed to do that. Just complain and get your money back in front if you don't like what we're doing. But I think the rest of the people are still very excited that acts from other cities are going on the road and coming to their cities.
Yeah.
And there is this feeling, and Randy and I have said this before, that when everyone in a room laughs at something together, there is a chemical reaction that happens.
I mean, that's
it
a
is
sports
magic.
thing too, right?
It is. That is the sport. So when we have that moment, there are very few moments like that in our world, and we miss those for 2 years. And so to have that back.
So when Michigan scores a touchdown, you turn to the person next to you and you high five them. It's like, you don't know who that person is. I don't know that person's political views. I don't have no idea. And then boom, we were now connected over this. When you are in Miami and you walk out and you see that your car next to someone else's car is lit on fire because of a grill that's been left on, you're in the same boat. Sports brings you together in that way. Like when you are upset that Brett Favre is siphoning money that should be going to better water in Mississippi, but he's doing it for his daughter's volleyball school, you're on the same team. No, that was a bad example because the right wing is supporting him. I'm sorry.
What about Brett Favre made anyone entrust money to that guy? Like,
well, his caretaking of the ball in football made him sound like a fine.
He's really scrambling now, guys. I mean, the thing about Brett Favre is he really, as it was made sort of with the Wrangler commercials, that he liked playing football in jeans. I'm like, well, you should be able to play it in a jumpsuit soon. That would be fantastic.
Good luck.
If you like playing in things that aren't football pants, here you go.
Yeah, I knew something was up for him, and it was like, oh yeah, the copper makes my elbow better.
That's right.
If he does.
That's not true.
Yeah, if he does go to jail, they really have to play like one of the what was the movie?
They need to do a remake of like
the longest yard.
Longest yard,
exactly.
Longest Yard 3 with like actual Brett Favre in jail would be great. Like,
Brett Favre,
or just play the real game.
Like Hard Knocks, Brett Favre in jail.
Like Brett Favre,
really Hard
watch
Knocks.
That.
Yes.
That would be great. And it's just basically between the game footage is just him making phone calls to Jen Sturger. There you go.
There you go.
Hey, you can't send one of those pictures through a jail phone. I'll tell you that.
Oh man, that's like a callback to the heyday of like dick pics on
That's
blogs.
Right. That's right. That was
it happened.
Deadspin being like, oh, this guy fell off the wagon. That's newsworthy.
Hey, we got to write something here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we got to get to the after UFR.
Yeah.
And you guys got to get to the show.
You got to get ready. So
we'll see you tonight.
We'll see you
or
there.
tomorrow night.
It's gonna be our first, I think that's our first MGO event too. Like, the first time we've actually invited people around us since COVID.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, there was COVID.
There was COVID.
But it's going to be a joyous event. See these guys tonight. They're wonderful, and we love them like brothers. Thank you guys for doing what you do.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, guys.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right.
The only thing we can be sure of about the future is that it will be absolutely fantastic. I'm thinking of the incredible breakthrough made possible by developments in communications.
Arthur C. Clarke's 1964 vision is now reality with SignalWire, a cloud platform that enables developers to build the applications that will reshape the future of communications.
These things will make possible a world in which we can be in instant contact with each other wherever we may be.
You can add cutting-edge, real-time video and audio to any product, website, or application with APIs and SDKs for developers of all skill sets. SignalWire is optimized for high-quality and low-latency communication functionality for video, voice, and text messaging capabilities.
Almost any skill could be made independent of distance. Men will no longer commute. They will communicate.
See for yourself at signalwire.com. Use code 2021 and receive $25 in developer credit. Go to signalwire.com.
SignalWire Communications OGs, original geeks of programmable communication.
It's painless. It's online. It's group ordering made easy for your next custom printed apparel order. Pogo from Underground Printing will save you time and hassle. Whether you're selling shirts for a fundraiser, organizing a large event, or trying to collect sizes and payment for a family reunion, UGP is here to help. Save time and hassle every step of the way with our easy-to-use site. No more guessing what to order, chasing down people to pay, or wasting time trying to sort out the order. We'll set it up and you can just sit back and relax. We can even take care of individual shipping. To learn more about Pogo, visit us at any of our convenient locations or at pogo.undergroundshirts.com.
Hey, so I have like insurance and stuff, but I don't really like know what's going on with it.
Yeah, your coverage probably sucks, and you're paying way too much for it. And I know this because I had a guy, his name's Phil Klein. He's actually a Michigan alum and wrestled for Michigan. He looked at my insurance, and he was like, yeah, your coverage sucks, and you're paying a lot more than you need to for it.
I also, I hesitate to even mention this, but I do have my insurance from a company that advertises during college football games. Well, and I wish that was not the case.
Well, why don't you just get it from a cool guy who actually reads MGoBlog?
Well, how would I do that? They have a website?
They have one of those too. It's philkleininsurance.com. Can you remember the name Phil Klein?
Sure.
Can you remember insurance?
Yes.
Okay. Use those two together, and you will save money on your insurance, and you will actually get better coverage on your home and your auto, and they do life too.
All right. So you're telling me if I Google Phil Klein Insurance, this website will come up?
Yes.
Wonders never cease.
This is Matt Demrest, the owner of HomeSure Lending. We're a local mortgage company here to help you purchase with confidence and refinance with ease. People don't get mortgages very often, so it can be confusing. We'll break down every single line item so that it all makes sense. And at the end of the day, if we're not giving you the best deal, we'll tell you to go with the other company. We're here to offer our simple mortgage guidance.
This is Seth Fisher from MGoBlog. Over the years, we've sent dozens of readers to use HomeSure Lending, and every review that's come back has been raving. I myself used them to refinance after doing our original loan through our bank. I was amazed how much smoother the process was for our complicated loan. Brian used them, you should use them too.
Finding out whether it makes sense or not to refinance or getting pre-approved to buy a new home is easy. Head over to homesurelending.com, that's HOMESURE, lending.com/MGoBlog to find out more. Or call us at 734-531-9950. That's 734-531-9950. I've got two of my favorite people here with me, kind of an annual tradition, Cooper and Colby. Cooper, how old are you?
11.
Colby, how about you?
9.
Can I get a Go Blue?
Go Blue!
NMLS number 1161358, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to MGoRadio 8.3. We're going to close the show out by taking one last look back at the UConn game. I know Alex is excited for this part.
I mean, we did it. I had to spend the time.
UFR'd this thing, so we're going to talk about it. Offensively, there were a couple of plays on which J.J. McCarthy could have done something better.
Okay. So J.J. McCarthy is not literally the most perfect human ever put on this planet.
Well, his downfield success rate is still 100%.
So he's still the most perfect human being ever put on this planet.
Well, Denard, but other than that, so there were a couple controversial plays that we kind of talked about early in the week, and I went over them in detail, and I still think that 3rd and 14 sack was the right play, and people need to get open for him. Mm-hmm. And so there was the pull. That was wrong. We've talked about that. There was the deep out to Bell that took him off his feet.
Right.
There's another out to Henning that took Henning off his feet. That's on Henning, I think.
Okay.
And that's about it.
Yeah. You kept on referencing my comment in the podcast about how I wanted Hayes to cut up on that one thing. But it's plausible. The other thing I really wanted was just AJ Henning can't just run right into a linebacker.
So this was a problem with earlier running backs.
Yeah.
Where people describe running backs as a one-cut runner.
Mm-hmm.
That's completely viable.
Right.
Because you threaten somewhere and you cut and then you're going to get yards. A no-cut runner is not. And on that play, Henning just runs as fast as possible directly to linebacker.
And it's still a huge gap. So you can run into that gap. You just have to press it or something like that or get him.
You got to gear down. You got to let your blocks develop. And if you threaten outside and that linebacker's like, oh, God,
right,
wall of friendly butts, and then A.J. Henning, he's faster and quicker than just about anybody on a football field.
Right.
If he cuts that, then I think he might be able to get by that linebacker, and then he might score a touchdown.
There's no one else. It's always the linebacker or touchdown.
But you can't Ty Isaac it.
Yeah.
You can't just run in a straight line.
Right. Especially if you're A.J. Henning. Like, if you're Hassan Haskins or, like, you know, you can get away with that.
Right.
Yeah. But
so, I mean, I think we've seen that from Donovan Edwards a little bit as a freshman, and it's something that Mike Hart will coach out of you eventually. I think we're going to see better from Edwards. But McCarthy's day honestly looked better on film than it did live because you can tell that the bubble screens are not being checked to the sideline.
Right.
He's making that decision himself, which is a much better way to go because the defense's favorite thing to do when you check is check.
Yeah.
And UConn got him once where they had a blitz on from the safety spot, but Roman Wilson made that work.
Yeah. So what is he supposed to do? Because, like, this was actually an argument between Gardner and Borges, too, on Sam's show.
On that play?
Yeah. Like, what is the check for that play?
Well, on that play, the safety's at like 10 yards or something. So if they have that blitz on good luck to them, because the ball's going to get there fast enough that Wilson's going to be able to do something, and then if he does do something, you get a play.
Right.
And maybe a better, faster player is able to get Roman Wilson down, but maybe not, because that guy was not squared up. You know, he's charging.
Yeah.
He hasn't come to a stop and forced the offensive player to make a decision about where to go, and then he can track him down. He's tearing hell for leather at the ball. So maybe that ends up being an RPS -1 or something because you get tackled at line of scrimmage. So what?
Right.
Right? We're going to live with that
because
the other bubble screens in this game averaged 20 yards an attempt.
and like, have we not been the fan base that's been, like, murdered by not throwing bubble screens, like, this would not be a thing. But, you know, just seeing it happen, they're so obviously open. Like, the way they're so obviously playing open,
and you have a flex tight end who you can throw out there, and like, he's gonna kick a cornerback's ass every time.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the yo-yo flat from Bell, which is we're going to try to track two things. How many S's does Matt Weiss deserve in his last name?
Are you just going to add them every week? Or
No,
it's
going to be like
the second S he gained.
Like his baseline is 2 S's, and then if it's a really bad game, he goes down to 1.
Ooh.
And then we're going to see.
Well, the problem with going down to 1 is you're associated with Charlie.
That's
Weiss.
exactly why.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise.
Can you go below Charlie Weiss? Can you just be like a Y?
Oh. Josh Gaddis against Army was that.
Oh, why?
But that's what's going to take.
Why?
And then we're going to track a block of the year, which we didn't have any candidates. The current leader is Olu against Hawaii.
Someone complained that we're not doing the Mr. Worldwide anymore. I'm like, this is so much better.
Well, it's fine. It had its moment, and now
we don't need the Mr. Worldwide anymore.
We don't need it. We're gonna do this because nobody else can accurately give out a block of the year award.
Yes.
So this is what we're gonna do. What did you see defensively that maybe people haven't realized?
Jenkins.
Yeah.
At this point, he's been showing it for multiple games.
I'm happy to hear that because I put him third on the known friends list, and I'm always like, I hope that one's right.
That one was right. That one came out really well. I mean, no one played long enough. Like, everyone got, like, the most anyone got was like 31 snaps or something, which is like half a game at most. So, and Mozzie Smith, it's still like, okay, he comes in and has like a play every once in a while, and then like he just gets to take the rest of the game off. There's nothing for him to do. But because you're doubling him, that means, especially because they went to 2 tight ends a whole bunch. So then we got to see a lot of the 5-2 this week, or the 3-4 if you want to call it that, but it's 5-2, right? I mean, Jalen Harrell is more defensive end, yeah. So we got to see how that works and with what Graham looks like as a starter, basically, and it's working because you have to single one of those guys. You can afford to double 2 guys on the line. So if they want to double the edges, then okay, you got Mike Morris taken care of, you got Jalen Harrell taken care of, everyone else is singled. You can't do that. You have to double Mozzie. You have to double Graham. You have to double Jenkins. You're running out of guys that, someone's going to get singled. This game, Jenkins got a lot of singles because for some reason UConn was like, we're just going to release to the second level and single block some of these defensive tackles. And so you notice my linebacker scoring is like almost nil because they don't get to do anything. I mean, they'll eat a block, and then they'll get off the block, and by the time they're off the block, the play's over in the backfield already. So it was hard to judge it like that, but like it's happening because Jenkins can't be single blocked. And he's doing things where he's like recognizing the play and seeing where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just his size, which is a thing too. He's standing up to doubles. So I think that's real, and that's a big deal.
Generally when you get defensive tackles putting up points, even against mugs, that sticks.
Yeah, and I mean we're waiting for the Mozzie Smith breakout, but I still feel like it's there.
Well, he just hasn't had the snaps.
Yeah, he hasn't had the snaps, and okay, he's double teamed. His job right now is just eat this double team while they run 4 gaps away from him, and you can't cut back because he got a +1 or a plus 0.5. But that's. I haven't been able to give him a big monster. He went for it once on a 3rd and 6, and they just happened to run the ball that play. And it's he actually ended up with a minus on that play. And it's oh, come on, just want to get one of these out.
All right, so we talked a lot about how the results from the Colorado State game are maybe not particularly indicative given what their pass protection looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you seeing from these edges?
You only get a couple opportunities a game because they did this. I mean, and that says something, right? That UConn looked at this and goes, well, we don't want to end up like Colorado State. We don't want to end up like.
Yeah, so, I mean, the number of actual bona fide dropbacks in this game was 4.
Right. And then on those, Braden McGregor got pressured twice and got held twice. They didn't call either one of them, but that's still an event that matters to me, right?
Well,
sure.
Welcome to the life.
Yeah, he looks like Aiden Hutchinson. Now he's getting treated like Aiden Hutchinson.
Well, and then part of it is there's stages.
Yeah.
There's stages where you're not getting held.
Yep.
And then you evolve into stage 2, which is you're getting held.
Right.
And then you evolve into stage 3, which is you're getting held and it doesn't matter.
Right. So he hasn't made a sack while wearing a guy like a cape yet, but he's at the level where he's wearing a guy like a cape. And that's important because we've been where's this edge rush going to come from? Harrell just doesn't have it.
So Harrell is 3rd in the country in pressure rate right now.
On Pro Football Focus?
Yes.
I don't know.
And that's not a grade. That's just a
know what
a number.
I know, but I mean, they're obviously just grading okay, if he got pressure or not, or he got around his guy. But I care if I count how many yards around you are.
Yeah.
If you're around at 10 and then pushed past.
Yeah, that's not
productive. Right. So I mean, that happens to him. He's smaller. I mean, he's still linebacker sized. So there's a clip I think where I just freeze framed it, and you see McGregor coming in. They're both trying to rush the edge because the defensive tackles are coming up. So it's not one of those things where Aiden Hutchinson
we're
goes
taking
low
some
and
heat
Jumbo
for
goes
our
high.
Jalen Harrell skepticism at this point.
Well, it's because
the internet is wroth.
He's easy to love because everything else he does great.
Right. Well, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not hating Jalen Harrell.
You are a Harrell skeptic in terms of pass rush.
Just pass rush. Yeah.
And then you're profusely apologizing to Junior Colson these days?
Yes. Well, because he goes the right direction. Once in a while he goes the wrong direction, but that happens to linebackers, right? Especially our defense is linebacker hell because everything goes on in front of you, and then you're supposed to make the defensive tackle right, whatever he does. So once in a while he just gets got, but. He's going the right direction, and when he goes in there, he's sticking his nose in there and making plays. And there's not a whole lot of opportunities to get pluses, especially from his spot. And seeing that, I mean, just compare him to Kalel Mullings, who's next to him, who's not there.
Well, it's been Barrett a lot.
Well, Barrett's an interesting player. Because if the defensive line is going to play this way,
I keep wanting this to happen, so I bring it up every
week.
I
mean, this is another opportunity to see it because they were running the 5-2, so they had all 3 tackles out at the same time. This time, UConn was just releasing guys, and Barrett was getting eaten when that happened, but it didn't matter because everything in front of him. But if you can keep him clean, and keeping him clean includes, this, right? If they want a single block. Mozzie Smith
you just
all
said
day.
This. What does that mean?
What UConn did. If they just want a single. Yes.
We're
a visual podcast. There's our camera right there. Okay.
Most people are not going to be looking at our ugly mugs.
It's very true. But if you wanted to single block Jenkins and Smith and Graham, and they're going to hold up to that, fine. It doesn't matter if he's getting blocked on the second level. All right. If he's able to survive that way, because man, if you don't have to he doesn't have to beat blocks, which is the one thing he's not going to do. He's not like a reader. He's just not an inside linebacker.
Yeah.
The rest of it's awesome. He's our best pass rusher. He's really good in coverage. I mean, he's an athlete, right? So it's like having a quasi safety out there.
Well, it's like Jordan Glasgow.
Exactly. And that worked because of the front they had in front of him.
Right. And so I think we're going to see, Nakai Hill-Green come back this week. We've had some reports from the pay sites that Hill-Green.
Well, he's a Maryland guy, right?
Yeah, Edwards.
Yeah.
So he'll get a flea flicker.
Right.
And then
Edwards better
Keegan
get a pass in this one.
are supposed to be available for this game, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I think that you might want Nakai Hill-Green out there for running downs.
Yeah.
And then Barrett is maybe a choice when you have like a 3rd and 6 and you don't want to go to a pure dime, but you do have a role for him on the defense.
And you need to rotate linebackers. And, I nothing against Mullings, but, the second he picked up the block punt, I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a similar thought. I was like, but, I mean, if he's on the 2 deep, you can't move him.
No, he can't.
Because Stokes is doing just fine. And I think we saw from Corum, this is another thing I picked up, is that Corum was very physical in this game.
Yeah.
So he had a heart-worthy cut block on a blitz, and then he was lined up in the slot and absolutely annihilated a defensive end.
Uh-huh.
And then Michigan got a little bit more resistance on the ground from UConn, so there were a couple opportunities for him to shake a guy in the backfield, dig out a couple of yards.
Yeah.
And then
they were running a lot of stretch zone. So, and that puts it on the linebacker to kind of figure out where his gap's going to be and get there past the guy.
Just in terms of Corum making yards after contact, he did better in this game than I think he did all last year, and it's pretty.
Colson,
No, I'm talking about Corum.
Corum.
Yeah,
okay.
I've yanked the discussion back to the offense.
Gotcha.
Sorry. And I figure that he's going to be your short yardage back, and that's probably just going to be fine. One other thing. Zach Zinter did have a big bounce back game. And
yes.
In particular, Michigan was running a stretch, and UConn put a linebacker on the line of scrimmage to the top, and that's almost always we're slanting away from this linebacker, which is directly into the stretch. And Zinter had a guy lined up inside of him already.
Right.
So usually, if you don't get any help on a guy who's lined up inside of you and is slanting away from you, you're screwed.
Right.
I don't know if I've ever seen someone make a block in that situation that means anything. Zinter just cuts the guy.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of agility, and more importantly, it's awareness of the situation he's in. And that guy is able to get up and he's able to tackle, but it's 6 yards downfield, and I'm like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So whatever hiccups he had last week, I think he overcame very competently. And one thing that's becoming very clear is that Michigan is a very right-handed ground game. So Hayes barely came in for any scoring. El Hadi was, I think he picked up a +3, and then the center and then the 2 guys on the right were much more involved.
Which is interesting. Trente Jones, he's the one getting dogged because of his pass protection, but his running game has been great.
Yeah, and then the pass protection in this game is we had El Hadi think a pass play was a run play.
Right.
And he had one other minus, and then all other pass protection minuses were on the 2 Cade McNamara plays. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, Cade's out probably for this game, but maybe that fixes that.
It's uncanny.
Yeah.
I have never seen anything like this because in the Hawaii game, I think the protection for Cade McNamara when he was out there was 2 for 8. So he's on a 2 for 12 streak, which is.
That's
I shouldn't say he's on a 2 for 12 streak.
No,
he's
his
the victim
line
of a 2 for 12 streak.
Yeah,
but
conspiracy theory time.
And then the other thing that kind of Stokes didn't have a whole lot to do in this game, but there was one situation where there's an overhang safety and he was unblocked and it was an ISO and he didn't have a route up the middle of the field. But he did have the ability to pop out and then test that safety. Maybe it goes somewhere and maybe it doesn't. And instead, he just pops through this gap in the line.
Yeah.
That isn't there.
Right. It looks like it's off the back of a guy who's
and
beat his guy. Or
to me, that was the cut from the kind of guy who's like, no, I'm not happy. I'm never happy. So, I'm on board the Stokes bandwagon. I think he's a player.
Can I add one more thing on defense?
Sure.
you're talking about extra guys playing linebacker and Makari Page because they've got this dime.
No, they have the dime, but no,
he's not a lot. But he came in and I thought it was a linebacker, and then I had to go back. I'm like, wait, who's not? That's
he
Page.
blew up a guard.
Which you don't see that very often from a safety.
No, especially not a guy who's like 6'5".
Yeah,
is walking a lack of leverage.
Yeah.
Remember when Pat Massey was a defensive tackle?
Why do you? Whoa, oof, yes.
He was 6'8". He should have been a tight end. All right, I've gotten all my things off the chest. We've already given picks for the game this week.
Yeah. You want to just? I can just put the music on, and then we can talk over it, and that will be the end of the podcast.
Michigan State losing to Minnesota.
It's going to be an interesting game.
That's a yes.
I believe in Minnesota, okay?
I believe in Michigan State.
The advanced stats love Minnesota.
They do.
Michigan State can pull one out of their butts, but Michigan State can lose this game and get doubled up, or win this game and get doubled up in yardage. How's that?
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Vodka, singing this crazy song.
Boris is a mayor and a land surveyor with plans of his own. He hates a Ruska, he hates a vodka bandit from his home. He hates a Ruska, vodka. He never drank a single drop.